We live in interesting times for the headlines. 25 people were injured in several homes, churches, and other buildings damaged on Saturday when an earthquake sent terrified residents of the southern Philippines fleeing their homes before dawn. Millions of residents in Louisiana are bracing for the impact from Tropical Storm Barry, which is threatening the southern U.S. state and its largest city, New Orleans, with potentially disastrous rainfall and flooding. And U.S. President Donald Trump confirms that U.S. immigration authorities will start raids on Sunday U.S. time to round up undocumented migrants for deportation. Mama Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us. And now to the news. "25 people were injured and several homes, churches, and other buildings damaged on Saturday when an earthquake sent terrified residents of the southern Philippines fleeing their homes before dawn, according to police. The 5.8 magnitude quake struck the northeast coast of Mindanao Island at 4:42 a.m. at a depth of 11.8 kilometers, with the Philippine Seismology Office also recording 7 less intense aftershocks. Officers at the police station in Madrid town, and that is near the epicenter, ducked beneath tables as the glass door of a filing cabinet splintered and a television set fell and shattered off a table, according to its police chief Lieutenant Wilson Yunati. Patients were also evacuated at the Madrid District Hospital, which sustained cracks on its concrete walls, he added. The roof of an old car park in Madrid collapsed, causing slight damage to the town's 2 fire trucks and 3 cars. The impact was also felt in 4 neighboring towns, damaging homes, 2 Catholic churches, a hotel, a gym, a bridge, and a public market, according to the Civil Defense Office in the region in a written report. A restaurant tipped over into a nearby river in Cantilan town, while residents reported broken plates and glass and ceramic decorative figurines in their homes. And that is according to police officer Johan Stipon, and he told this to AFP by telephone. Rescue officials listed 25 injured people across the region, including 6 in Madrid and a girl and her father who were struck by falling masonry that fell through a roof and into their bedroom in Cantilan. The Philippines is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intense seismic activity that stretches from quake-prone Japan through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific Basin. Our next story is what authorities are calling a life-threatening storm about to hit the Gulf in hours. Tropical Storm Barry is gaining strength right now and hitting the bands. You could see the roads here covered in water. There's flooding already, and this could very well make landfall in Louisiana as a hurricane. The levees in New Orleans also will be tested. This is the highest the Mississippi River has been with this size of a storm. Voluntary evacuations have been issued across New Orleans for areas that are not protected by the levees. People are running out of time to evacuate as Barry makes its final approach. The large storm system currently in the Gulf of Mexico brings heavy rains, a potential storm surge, and flooding that pose a threat reminiscent of 2005's deadly Hurricane Katrina. Thousands have packed up and left their homes as floodwaters hit low-lying areas like Plaquemines Parish, where road closures left some communities isolated as they braced for Barry's arrival. By late Friday, the storm was packing winds of 65 miles per hour, 9 miles per hour shy of hurricane strength. Jill Treppener, an expert in extreme climatic and weather events at Louisiana State University, said the real increased threat from a warming climate is an atmosphere that's capable of producing higher intensity precipitation events. She said warmer air in the Gulf of Mexico will likely add fuel to the storm, while warmer ocean temperatures there will fit will fill in with vast amounts of evaporated water that can lead to dangerous flooding. Louisiana officials have warned residents that Barry, expected to make landfall now in hours, could inundate areas along the lower Mississippi with up to 20 inches of rain. Every floodgate has been closed along Lake Pontchartrain due to the anticipated flooding. Let's listen in.
It could just happen in minutes, in hours. We live in an area where it's one way in and it's one way out. If you get trapped there, that's what they said about Katrina. Oh, Katrina gonna make a turn. Katrina gonna do this and that. Those are the kind of people that risk our people's lives to go rescue them, and they had a warning. I still say that.
I suggest not to come back because I keep up with tracking online and stuff. But my father sees, how it's calm right now, and he thinks it's not going to be a big deal. So that's why we're coming back, because he's just hard working. All he thinks about is work. He got bored, went home. He got bored, so we came straight back down here.
A large brush fire erupted late Thursday morning in the central portion of Maui in Hawaii. It forced thousands to evacuate, especially along the coastal towns south of the island. Our Hawaii Bureau was able to gather photos and videos from eyewitnesses. Alfred Asenas has the latest on day 2. Alfred?
So just like last time, we're going to show everyone the map of the state of Hawaii, all the islands as we're should be familiar by now. And second to the right of it is the islands of Maui County. Now we're going to do a close-up on the island itself. And we showed you the other night the narrow portion, the neck. That is especially crucial because of the roadways that travel from Kahului in the north and to the other towns out west in Lahaina and down south on Kihei. What's also critical is that the area below Kahului Airport, to the south of it, where that narrow portion is a part of the flight path coming in and out of the island. So you will see some photos and even videos of aircraft flying through the heavy smoke, and according to some reports, from witnesses or passengers, they experienced heat. They also smelled the smoke coming into Kahului Airport. So we're going to show 2 sets of videos and statements. The first one from Delmar Domino from day 1. And then we're going to show Dexter Saldua, who's contributed to Eagle News a couple of times before, on what has been going on in day 2, emphasizing more on that flat, narrow portion of the island. So without further ado, let's check it out.
Be careful, guys. There's a smoke right there. Brush fire by Waikea 5 Mile Stretch area. Okay, if you're traveling in that area, be careful. All right.
From what I heard, the fire started around 10:40 this morning in central Kahului. It's been really dry here lately. We haven't had much rain in the past, say, month and a half. And towards later in the afternoon, it started getting windy, and the flames kept going, started spreading towards North Kihei, and then they decided to close the road going Kihei bound from Mukulele Highway around 2 o'clock. So all the traffic going to Kihei got diverted to South Kihei Road, and that backed up a lot of the drivers, everyone going home or going to work to Lahaina. Traffic is backed up all the way to, say, Wailuku Elementary School and so forth. It's pretty bad. If you look at the clouds earlier, it's a huge mess. You can't really see the mountain from the side that it's burning. It's still going on. And the only other structure that was nearby that could have been a affected was the Humane Society. So they evacuated all the personnel, all of the animals to Maui High School for shelter, and then they also told North Kihei residents to evacuate the area, and they're asked to seek shelter at one of the schools in Kihei. Same thing with Ma'alaya. People who live near Ma'alaya were asked to evacuate towards Wailuku. So as of right now, it's we're still having heavy traffic, and but the firefighters, the police, they're doing their best to keep everyone safe and to keep the fire under control.
So just to update Dexter's statements, according to Maui County officials, they're saying that the two sets of fires that were raging on the island, one is said to have been contained about 70%, the other about 80%. So there is some progress. Now the concern between now and the next few days is the weather. Dexter mentioned in the previous report that Maui has not seen any rainfall, significant rainfall in the past few days, and traditionally that part of the island, along with the west and southern part of the island, are especially dry, especially this time of year. So any kind of rain would be most helpful given those conditions. Now, we did show last night, we'll show it again, that there were some acts of kindness and some selfless acts. According to what we've gathered, then Governor Ige tweeted to Oprah Winfrey for thanking her for allowing access to a private road within her property to help in the evacuation near the portion of the island where the fire is. So and for sure there are more acts of charity and selfless actions there, and we'll do our best to capture them as they become available. Also, other significant pieces of information, and this is as of the latest 10:30 p.m. local time, 4:30 p.m. Philippine time. So far, according to Maui County, there have been I repeat, no reports of casualties or injuries as a direct result of the fire. So that is one piece of good news, if I may, that for sure the government there and the state government would like to keep it that way. So that is all for now. And reporting from Central Oahu here in Hawaii, I'm Alfred Asenas, 1 with 25. Back to you.
Thank you, Alfred, for that update. Meanwhile, Turkey received the first batch of Russia's S-400 missile defense system on Friday, sparking NATO concern and risking deepening tensions with the United States, which has repeatedly warned against the purchase. The delivery to an air base in the Turkish capital, Ankara, comes after Washington warned this week that there would be real and negative consequences if Turkey bought the defense system. NATO, which counts Turkey as one of its members, is concerned about the potential consequences of the purchase. The alliance has repeatedly warned Turkey that the Russian system is incompatible with other NATO weapon systems, not least the F-35, a new generation multi-role stealth fighter jet. The U.S. fears that if Ankara integrates the S-400 into its defenses, there is a risk that sensitive data about its F-35 could leak back to the Russians, and it has threatened to expel Turkey from its fighter jet program. But Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has refused to back down and said he is confident Turkey will not face U.S. sanctions after meeting his U.S. counterpart President Trump on the margins of the G20 summit in Japan last month. The U.S. State Department has said Turkish officials are fully aware of legislation, the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, which mandates sanctions for any significant purchases of weapons from Russia. Washington has given Ankara until July 31 to cancel the S-400 purchase or have its pilots kicked off its F-35 training course and expelled from the U.S. Britain said it was sending a second warship to the Gulf and raising the alert level in the oil-rich region as tensions spike after Iranian gunboats threatened a UK supertanker. British officials said the naval deployment was part of a pre-planned rotation and meant to ensure a continued British naval presence in one of the most important but volatile oil shipment routes in the world. The decision was disclosed as U.S. President Donald Trump stepped up his war of words with the Islamic Republic, which breached part of a nuclear accord already rejected by Washington.
Iran better be careful. They're treading on very dangerous territory. Iran, if you're listening, you better be careful. Thank you.
A government spokesman said the HMS Duncan was deploying to the region to ensure, quote, we maintain a continuous maritime security presence while HMS Montrose comes off task for pre-planned maintenance and crew changeover. On Wednesday, HMS Montrose warned off 3 fast Iranian gunboats that UK officials said were trying to impede the progress of a British supertanker through the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf. Iranian officials have denied the incident ever happened. The British government decided at the start of the week to raise the alert level for ships traveling through Iranian waters to a 3-point scale, indicating a critical threat. HMS Duncan is an air defense destroyer that carries a set of heavy Harpoon anti-ship missiles and has a company and crew in excess of 280. In other news, U.S. Labor Secretary Alex Acosta resigned amid a backlash over a secret plea deal he negotiated a decade ago with Jeffrey Epstein, the financier accused of sexually abusing young girls. Acosta, 50 years old, a former federal prosecutor, had been facing mounting calls to quit over the deal that saw Epstein serve just 13 months in a county jail. Epstein, 66, was charged on Monday by prosecutors in New York with 1 count of sex trafficking of minors and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors. He faces up to 45 years in prison if convicted. Now, President Trump, who had defended Acosta after Epstein's arrest, described him as a tremendous talent.
It would be selfish for me to stay in this position and continue talking about a case that's 12 years old rather than about the amazing economy we have right now. And so I submitted my resignation to the president effective 7 days from today, effective 1 week from today, earlier this morning.
According to prosecutors, Epstein sexually exploited dozens of underage teen girls at his homes in Manhattan and Palm Beach, Florida, between 2002 and 2005. Some were as young as 14. Top Democrats in Congress, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, have called this week for Acosta's resignation.
I think he was a great labor secretary, not a good labor secretary. He's done a fantastic job. He's a friend of everybody in the administration.
Denouncing President Donald Trump as an affront to American values, Democratic candidate Joe Biden vowed Thursday that if elected, he would hold a summit aimed at halting a backslide in global democracy. The former vice president, who leads early polls for the Democratic nomination to challenge President Trump in next year's election, said his foreign policy would be based on clear goals driven by sound strategies and not by Twitter tantrums. Take a look.
The world sees Trump for what he is, insincere, ill-informed, and impulsive, and sometimes corrupt, dangerously incompetent and incapable, in my view, of world leadership and leadership at home. If Tehran returns to compliance with the deal, I would rejoin the agreement and work with our allies to strengthen and extend it while more effectively pushing back against Iran's destabilizing activities, which under the agreement we were allowed to do and we had partners to do with us. In North Korea, I will empower our negotiators to jumpstart a sustained coordinated campaign with our allies and others, including China, to to advance our shared objective, and it is a shared objective, a denuclearized North Korea. We need sensible policies to improve screening priorities at the legal points of entry, to make smart investments in border technology. We need to work again with Canada and Mexico as neighbors, not as adversaries. And we need to focus on the root causes driving migrants to our borders in the first place. As Vice President, I secured commitments from the leaders of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras after multiple meetings to take on corruption, violence, and the endemic poverty in those countries that are the driving force.
Meanwhile, President Trump fired back and said that President Xi, President Putin, all of these guys, quote, hope that former Vice President and Democratic 2020 hopeful Joe Biden or somebody like him becomes president. Take a look.
That knows him knows he's a weak man. But you know, when I see a guy like Biden who's weak and ineffective, and everybody that knows him knows he's a weak man, he's an ineffective man, President Xi laughs at guys like that. Now, with that being said, I would say this: President Xi, Putin, all of these guys go to bed at night and they pray that Joe Biden or somebody like him becomes president so they can continue to rip off our country.
And here's the catch of the day by the U.S. Coast Guard. Take a look. Dramatic video shows a U.S. Coast Guard cutter, the Monroe, in a high-speed chase of a semi-submersible suspected of carrying cocaine in the middle of international waters. Actually, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Monroe has already returned to San Diego from this maiden drug interdiction mission with a record 39,000 pounds of cocaine seized from smugglers in the Pacific Ocean. The cocaine and 933 pounds of marijuana were seized during 14 drug interdiction and disruptions off the coast of Mexico, Central America, and South America during the past 3 months. The drugs have a combined street value of $569 million, according to Coast Guard officials. During a ceremony aboard Monroe, Vice President Mike Pence welcomed the crew back and commended their work disrupting the flow of narcotics to the U.S. And U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed that agents of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE, will launch raids across the country this weekend to round up thousands of undocumented migrants for deportation. Take a look.
It starts on Sunday, and they're going to take people out, and they're going to bring them back to their countries, or they're going to take criminals out, put them in prison, or put them in prison in the countries they came from. We're focused on criminals as much as we can.
The ICE raids are expected to take place in 10 major cities, pursuing people for whom courts have already issued removal orders, according to media reports. They could potentially target families who have been inside the U.S. for many years, with homes, businesses, and U.S.-born children, according to reports. Migrant communities and immigration and rights activists around the country were girding for the raids. Migrants were being told to not open their doors to ICE agents if they do not have search or arrest warrants, to record their encounters with agents, and to call immigration attorneys for help. Democrats warned the Trump administration about breaking up long resident families with members who are inside the country legally. House Leader Nancy Pelosi called the ICE plan heartless and said Sundays are when many Hispanic immigrant families are in church.
We wouldn't go that place. This is not, this is not issues, this is not legislation, this is about values. And our members did hear this when they went home. Whatever they may think about immigration and many other aspects of it, they all universally came back with questions about the children, the American people, and their decency, care about the children at the border. It's about values that the president does not seem to share, and we saw this morning when he announced his heartless raids on families this coming Sunday. When he announced this before, I called, God bless you, some people of faith about this, evangelicals who support the president for other reasons, but who have been good on immigration issues, but usually. And basically, they were very concerned that this goes too far because these raids were not what they signed up for with President Trump. Families belong together. Every person in America has rights. These families are hardworking members of our communities and our country. This brutal action will terrorize children and tear families apart. The events that I've been going to, recently in Queens and other places, but the Queens one was specifically geared to the census, and then the raids emerged as part of that discussion. I read them this card. An ICE deportation warrant is not the same as a search warrant. If that is the only document ICE brings to a home raid, agents do not have the legal right to enter a home. If ICE agents don't have a warrant signed by a judge, a person may refuse to open the door and let them in. An administrative order of removal from ICE or immigration authorities is simply not enough. Families belong together.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Manila.
Visiting the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination, but oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. Species that you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Welcome back. At least 26 people, including several foreigners, were killed and 56 injured in a suicide bomb and gun attack claimed by Al-Shabaab militants on a popular hotel in southern Somalia, according to a top regional official on Saturday. A suicide bomber rammed a vehicle loaded with explosives onto the Medina Hotel in the port town of Kismayo on Friday before several heavily armed gunmen forced their way inside, shooting as they went, according to authorities. The siege lasted for almost 12 hours and only ended on Saturday morning after clashes with security forces. 3 Kenyans, 3 Tanzanians, 2 Americans, 1 British and 1 Canadian were among the 26 people killed in the attack, according to President Ahmed Mohamed Islam of the semi-autonomous Jubaland region. And he said this during a news conference. Authorities believe 4 gunmen who one witness described as wearing Somali police uniforms were involved in the attack. Shabab, the Al-Qaeda-linked group, claimed responsibility for the siege, describing it as, quote, a martyrdom attack. Hundreds of undocumented migrants surged into the Pantheon region in central Paris, briefly occupying the vaunted memorial complex to demand talks with the Prime Minister on regularizing their status, according to activists. Around 700 migrants and their supporters joined the demonstration, with some pushing into the historic complex at around midday on Friday. A member of the Chapelle Debout collective said. Now, footage posted on Twitter from inside the building's main dome showed hundreds of people waving papers in the air, shouting black vests, and what do we want? Papers. The so-called Black Vests is a Paris-based migrant association that takes its name from the Yellow Vest anti-government protest movement. And as they went inside, tourists were evacuated from the Pantheon, which is the final resting place of France's greatest non-military luminaries, including the writers Voltaire, Victor Hugo, and Émile Zola. Outside, hundreds more were gathered under the watchful eyes of a heavy police presence. In a statement, the Black Vest protesters said they wanted papers and housing for everyone, describing themselves as the undocumented, the voiceless, and the faceless of the French Republic.
Débuté vers 13h, on était venu, on est rentré pour occuper le Panthéon. Et du coup, on est resté 3 heures de temps, le temps qu'ils fassent des négociations, parce que le message était parti jusqu'à Matignon. Et là, ils sont au courant de l'affaire. Et ils ont dit qu'ils vont partir sur les négociations et qu'ils nous ont demandé de sortir dehors. Comme ça, ils vont nous libérer sans contrôle d'identité. Et on va rentrer au calme chez nous. Mais on a été piégés. Quand on est sorti dehors, ils nous ont fait une barricade derrière avec des voitures et les autres, ils étaient devant.
In other news, dozens of New Zealanders handed in their firearms Saturday as a gun buyback scheme went into operation aimed at ridding the country of semi-automatic weapons in the wake of the Christchurch mosque attacks. The first of more than 250 collections to be held nationwide was in Christchurch, where 51 Muslim worshippers were gunned down while at prayers less than 4 months ago. The government, with support from opposition parties, immediately rushed through legislation to tighten New Zealand's gun laws. Police Minister Stuart Nash said the objective was to remove the most dangerous weapons from circulation, with armed police monitoring the handover. 169 firearms owners handed in 224 weapons and 217 parts and accessories. They were then crushed in hydraulic presses. More than 433,600 New Zealand dollars was paid out in compensation. Regional Police Commander Mike Johnson said 903 gun owners in the Canterbury region, which includes Christchurch, had registered 1,415 firearms to be handed in. Plastered in colorful sticky notes carrying messages of defiance against Hong Kong's government, so-called Lennon walls have sprung up across the city, though fights have broken out as Beijing loyalists try to tear them down. Take a look.
I'm afraid of Hong Kong's future because if this keeps on happening, then our lives will be in danger.
佢撕一張我哋會貼多100張上去咯。佢咁唔會話因為你撕咗，我哋就唔再出聲。每一個人寫嘢貼嘢係好個人嘅事啦。但係你出到嚟，你見到咁樣係其實係形成咗某程度上形成咗一種力量，一種即係將一種好主觀嘅嘢轉變成一種客觀嘅即係好似某生講話一個客觀嘅願望。我哋都行咗好多次，咁但係政府似乎一路都未有一個好明確、好清晰表達，即係佢哋對我哋嘅訴求有咩回應。咁所以我都希望即係過嚟呢度再寫啲下，鼓勵下大家咁樣。
Arms to self-rule Taiwan, including battle tanks and anti-aircraft missiles, adding fuel to tensions between the two powers. Take a look. The U.S. later shrugged off China's complaints, responding that the equipment would contribute to peace and stability in Asia. The deal includes 108 M1A2T Abrams tanks, 250 Stinger portable anti-aircraft missiles, related equipment, and support at an estimated cost of just over $2.2 billion, according to the U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency, DSCA. The proposed sale will contribute to the modernization of the recipient's main battle tank fleet, improve its air defense system, and support the foreign policy and national security of the U.S. by helping to improve the security and defense capability of Taiwan, according to DSCA. It would not alter the basic military balance in the region, according to the agency, and Congress has been notified. U.S. lawmakers have 30 days to object to the sale, but are unlikely to do so. The sale would be the first transfer of big-ticket U.S. military gear to the democratically governed island in years, and comes as ties between Washington and Beijing are already strained by their trade war.
美方向台湾出售武器，严重违反国际法和国际关系基本准则，严重违反一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报的规定，粗暴干涉中国内政，损害中国主权和安全利益。中方对此表示强烈不满和坚决反对，已经就此向美方提出了严正交涉。台湾是中国领土不可分割的一部分，任何人都不要低估中国政府和人民捍卫国家主权和领土完整，反对外来干涉的坚强意志和坚定决心。
China on Friday said it would impose sanctions on U.S. companies involved in a potential arms sale worth $2.2 billion to self-rule Taiwan, a move that has infuriated Beijing. The U.S. arms sale to Taiwan has severely violated the basic norms of international law and international relations, according to Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang in an online statement. China views Taiwan as part of its territory and has vowed to one day seize it by force if necessary. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council said that Taipei would continue, quote, our defense or self-defense to counter the threats and challenges from Beijing downward. It is not the first time that Beijing has threatened sanctions following a planned U.S. arms sale to Taiwan. In 2010, the U.S. approved a package of Patriot missiles, Black Hawk helicopters, and other military hardware totaling $6.4 billion. The planned deal drew an angry response from Beijing, which cut off military and security contracts with Washington and threatened to impose sanctions on the firms involved in the transaction. The winner and runner-up in Indonesia's presidential election, which sparked deadly riots in the capital, called for reconciliation on Saturday in their first meeting since the vote. It comes 2 weeks after defeated Prabowo Subianto lost a court challenge to overturn President Joko Widodo's victory in the April election. On Saturday, the former general and the country's re-elected leader rode the newly inaugurated Mass Rapid Transit or MRT system together in Jakarta. Widodo said he initiated a meeting with his two-time presidential challenger on an MRT train because he knew Subianto had never used the new system. The General Election Commission declared President Widodo the winner with 55.5% of votes against Subianto's 44.5%. In May, peaceful protests against the official result by Subianto supporters erupted into 2 nights of street battles between police and rioters, leaving 9 people dead and hundreds injured in the capital of the world's 3rd biggest democracy. The Constitutional Court last month rejected Subianto's claims of widespread rigging and voter fraud. He lost a similar court battle in 2014 when Widodo won the presidential election for the first time. And we'll be right back after this short break.
Tanaw sa gitna ng dilim, ako ang mata sa sahing papawid, ako ang dilat sa tuwing ang bayan ko ay tulog ng mahimbing. Ang aming buhay handang ialay para sa bayan, kayo'y handang maglingkuran.
Join us in celebrating the 72nd anniversary of the Philippine Air Force.
Welcome back. This just in, pharmacies frequented by mainland Chinese visitors and parallel traders in a border district of Hong Kong have been warned to close if safety is threatened during a protest march Saturday. North District Parallel Imports Concerned Group organized a protest march to recover Sheng Shui. The group is accusing the government and the district council, which is dominated by the pro-establishment camp, of turning a blind eye to rampant tax evasion by the traders who sell their duty-free stocks brought in Hong Kong in mainland China for profit. The group said that they they expect a turnout in thousands rather than the usual few hundreds, given the momentum against the government's handling of the controversial extradition bill, which has triggered mass protests and clashes between demonstrators and police in the past month. The now suspended bill would have allowed fugitive transfer to places the city does not have an extradition deal with, including mainland China. All right, in business news, all 3 of Wall Street's main indices popped to fresh records on Friday, ending the week on an emphatic note as investors grew increasingly confident the Fed Reserve will cut interest rates at the end of the month. In congressional testimony this week, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell told lawmakers cross currents increased risks to the U.S. economic outlook, strongly suggesting a rate cut was in the cards at the Fed's next policy meeting in less than 3 weeks. The broad-based S&P 500 closed above the 3,000 mark for the first time ever. Jack Ablin of Crescent Wealth Advisors said investors also were encouraged by the outlook for what could be a better than expected corporate revenues. However, with corporate earnings season set to begin in earnest, S&P 500 companies are forecast to see weaker profit growth compared to last year, according to the fact set. It would be the second consecutive quarter of slowing profits, something that has not happened in 3 years. While the positive sentiment initially filtered through to Asia and Europe on Friday, the momentum petered out in late European trading.
Normally, if it was a market order, they wouldn't take it.
And U.S. regulators have approved a $5 billion penalty to be levied on Facebook to settle a probe into the social network's privacy and data protection lapses, according to the Wall Street Journal. According to the report, the deal, which would be the largest penalty imposed over privacy violations, still needs approval from the Justice Department before it's finalized. The settlement would be in line with Facebook's estimate earlier this year when it said it expected to pay $3 billion to $5 billion for legal settlements on user data practices. The FTC announced last year it reopened its investigation into a 2011 privacy settlement with Facebook after revelations that personal data on tens of millions of users was hijacked by the political consultancy Cambridge Analytica, working on the Donald Trump campaign in 2016. Some Facebook critics have argued the company should face tougher sanctions, including monitoring of its data practices, or that Chief Executive Mark Zuckerberg should be personally liable for penalties. Forty-year-old Manny Pacquiao will attempt to capture the World Boxing Association welterweight crown on July 20 when he faces unbeaten American champion Keith Thurman at the MGM Grand. Here's Alan Basiliao for the report.
Before the big showdown between Manny "Pac-Man" Pacquiao and Keith "One-Time" Thurman at the MGM Grand Las Vegas, Media Day for Pacquiao once again takes place at the Wild Card Boxing Club in Hollywood, California. Now, to give viewers a taste of how a pro boxer trains, I've volunteered to undergo Pacquiao's rigorous training regimen. Well, at least one aspect of it. So, will we be working the heavy bag? Shadow boxing? Or maybe grabbing lunch at Nat's Thai Food, where Pacquiao is known to regularly dine at when he trains in LA. You'll want to wait till the end of the report to find out, and you might be surprised at what I choose. Trainers and team members arrived ahead of Pacquiao to answer questions from the media.
You know, it's an honor to work with such a legendary champion, an all-timer like Keith Thurman is one time, Manny Pacquiao is all-time. What was intimidating was my drive over here because I didn't know if I had the job or not, and I had a meeting with Freddie and Sean and Manny, but you know, Manny made me feel really comfortable. The whole team has brought me in to the Pacquiao family. What all-time athletes, what all-time fighters do is they get up for big events. You can just look at his body and you can just tell he's ready to go.
If Manny wants to stop Keith Thurman, Manny's well and truly has the ability to stop Keith Thurman. He's in great shape. He'll peak right on the fight. He's extremely determined. So, you know, it's totally up to Pacquiao whether he wants to stop. We haven't seen this determined to beat an opponent for a long time. We train differently for each fighter. So obviously with this training we've done a lot more different stuff for Keith. A lot more leg work, a lot more agility, more lateral movement work. And for Pacquiao, after 70 fights, there's not much you're going to be able to show him. You can correct a few things he's doing wrong, maybe, or correct a few mistakes, maybe. But he needs to be in supreme condition to do what he actually does in the ring. And he will be, and he always is.
If this fight goes the distance, what do you anticipate to see from Thurman in the later rounds?
I like Pacquiao in the later rounds because that's where he usually excels. And Thurman, to me, he's been especially in his last three fights, he starts out quickly and starts fading as the fight goes on.
Are you able to anticipate when Thurman loads up for a power shot? Will Manny's quickness allow him to evade and counter?
I think so at this point, you know, because he does power with his left hand and then he goes with a big overhand right. And that's like, that was one of his favorite moves at one time. but the left hook seems that has taken over in the last fight, and I just don't think he's as much as he was at one time.
What kind of trouble will your opponent be in if Manny starts hitting those, landing those hard hits combined with his volume punching?
Well, if these people get out of the ring pretty soon, you'll see it. He's a good puncher. He's great. His speed's unbelievable. Not just his hand speed, his foot speed, and Manny's a very complete fighter. He depends on me to watch tape to come up with a game plan. And then we sit down and talk, and because Manny gets really bored watching TV. Like someone asks him, "Do you watch TV?" He doesn't. He doesn't watch TV. He's too active. That's too slow for him. He'd rather be out playing basketball. He likes darts and he's good at darts. Yes, he did lose to Ricky Hatton in the last throw though. But that was a while ago. But he won the fight though.
Next, it was time for the main event of Media Day to enter the ring. We asked Manny Pacquiao what are some of his opponent's strengths that he has to be prepared for on July 20.
Well, his left hook and right hook, he loves to throw that, and then we have to be very careful on that. And then I think with my fastest footwork, fastest hands, I can overpower that and move around like that and be aggressive. He's throwing punches outside, so I'm throwing punches inside.
How have your beliefs guided you inside and even outside the ring?
Oh, I have faith to God that He will protect me, not only me, but even my opponent also, and the fighters that are going to fight on that night. Praying to God that will bless us and protect us all.
Will there be karaoke after the fight?
Celebration.
A bona fide superstar and 8th Division champ, Manny Pacquiao has certainly earned the right to hang up his gloves. But even after all his accomplishments, the Pac-Man's passion for the sport hasn't diminished. And on July 20, he aims to pit his experience, conditioning, and will against a tough opponent in Keith Thurman, and to prove once more that he deserves to stand toe-to-toe with the boxing world's finest. Reporting from Hollywood, California, I'm Alan Basolyahe for Eagle News, and I'm 1 with 25.
The Iglesia ni Cristo is non-stop in building or refurbishing churches worldwide. Recently, the church has acquired its first chapel in Glasgow, Scotland. Carolyn Kennedy reports.
And I'm standing outside of 17 George Street, Paisley, outside of Glasgow, Scotland. The building behind me has been just recently purchased by the Church of Christ, Iglesia ni Cristo.
Jerusalem Church has been here, to my best of my knowledge, since around 1860, and it took it over from the Methodist Church, who actually built it originally for the workers who were building the Paisley Canal. Well, I've only been a member of the church for 20 years, but we came across, when we were clearing out for you, a cupboard, and there were approximately 31 photographs, I think, of ministers from 1860 in the cupboard that we found them. And I think over the years, the church has been a major part of Paisley. And I think it's because it does form part of the Paisley heritage, of which my wife is probably much more knowledgeable in Paisley than I am, because I'm not a Paisley buddy.
The church has had the church up for sale. It was put up for sale, not particularly for financial reasons, but mainly because we have a dwindling congregation.
You know, yeah? Yeah. And I'm going to know the church now as well.
The church been sold to Church of Christ. I think it's a lovely new start for this building, which means so much to our members. And it's lovely to see so many people here, and just glad to be part of it today.
I think it's wonderful actually. It's so nice to see the church with so many happy faces in it. Looking forward to a new start. I hope you have a wonderful time. We've enjoyed all the years that we've been here, and I hope you have the same love and the ways that we have had. And we look for a new beginning as well.
To
today's occasion is really such a blessing for us in Scotland, because since we've just reached our 10th year anniversary, this is really such a blessing for us. Not only for the congregation here in Glasgow, but also for all the brethren here in Scotland. When the building's finally ready for dedication, and once the dedication's over, I think the biggest thing that I'm hoping for is that our congregation continues to get larger and larger, so that the country of Scotland is filled up more with people who will return to God.
From Paisley, outside of Glasgow, Scotland, I'm Caroline Kennedy and I am 1 in 25.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Eagle News International, I'm Alma Angeles. Always 1 with 25. Good night.
Abang